Drawings are probably the easiest of the modules. We're relying on a set of standards and rules that have been around, well, since sketching and drawing began. Where it gets complicated, or where I make it complicated, I always feel like I'm starting down the rabbit hole when I get into the templates and the sheet formats for a drawing. Is we want to start with the standard, but I have the issue with the standard SOLIDWORKS template, and it's pretty much the same that I've seen in Fusion and NX and the Inventor. That what they give you to start with is not really very practical. When I did board drafting way back in the olden days, we pretty much just drew a bar across the bottom and we put the pertinent information in and all of this other stuff. It was by company. It was what they needed. And so the standard at that point becomes a suggestion. It is not a you have to do it this way. All right. What fits into your organization, into the information that you need? So that's what we're going to do in this video, is dissect the sheet format and the template and make it something that I feel is a little more usable. And we'll start off simple and see how far I go. I've done this before, and it's a great series. I have a lot of fun with it. I get frustrated, and the one of the issues is that you build this template and it kind of evolves over a month or two, and then you start using it and it goes along fine for a year. And then, hey, it would be great if we added this. Then you got to go back and remember everything you did and why you did it, and go through the process again. So let's start with the sizes. Our standard size is 8.5 by 11, is our A size sheet. And we're going to take a look at the ISO sizing as well. So this is from the technical drawing book. I always recommend, if you have took a drafting class with a technical drawing book, it's one of those you put on the shelf and you keep it handy. All of the ASME standards are in there, whether they're specifically called out or not. Not so much, but this is part of the ASME Y14, which is the grouping, the category, and kind of falls into the 0.24 or the 0.100 definitions of um, layouts and text and line widths. Back when pencil line weights were critical and were well defined, and being able to go through and do the lettering and freehand lettering and template lettering, that all has been um, that time consuming and somewhat tedious, but it was fun. It's a good skill to have. Um, has evolved into this. So this is the 8.5 by 11. If we rotate it and then flip it, we end up with the 11 by 17. Rotate it and flip it again, then we go to 22 by 34 as a general, and then it can go either way. So basically, we're going 1, 2, 3, 4 flips and doubles, and you end up with the D size. But unless you have a plotter, D and E size, CD and E size, and whatever is above E size are not very common. So just be aware of the paper sizes. I used to do my templates in B size because I could print it on an A size. If I had a larger format, B size, 11 by 17 printer, it was nice to have those sizes for document packages. And for the 20, okay, going on 30 years that I've been in manufacturing, and longer than that I've been in drafting, we've been talking about a paperless society where paperless manufacturing is still not there, and people walking around with iPads or the tablets and having e-drawings. We're maybe closer, but the shop environment is still um, kind of a dangerous place. Things get dropped, things get set on it. a piece of paper in your hand that you can write on, set in the coolant or the cutting oil, or um, just get dirty is not as expensive and more cost effective than an electronic device that's going to take a beating. So let's go into the drawing. The standard template is the drawing. It's going to ask us. I've already unchecked that, so I'm going to check it again. So you go into the drawing and it says only show standard formats. If we selected or have the ISO selected when we did the install, then this is going to be our standard format. And we're going to want to uncheck the only show standard format so that it shows us A through E and the ISO. And notice that when you click on the ISO, the title block is very tiny. So this corresponds to like an E size or larger sheet. And if you look at the width, a meter, 1.2 meters almost, 1200 millimeters by 850 millimeters. That's a big piece of paper. We go to the A4 landscape or portrait, 300 by 200. 300 is in that 12-inch range, so a little closer to 11 by 17, or 11 by 8.5 by 11. I'll spit it out here. Notice that even this title block, it takes up a third of the corner, and it's not very useful to me. And the ANSI landscape about the same. So we're going to pick the ANSI landscape, and most of our printers, and even sending this out to a PDF, is going to live in that area. So I am looking at it automatically launches into the property manager and says go ahead and bring in a part. Well, we're messing with the sheet format here, so I don't need a part, but we are going to have to make a decision. Do I want to use the model view or do I want to use the view palette? I go back and forth. There's good reasons for both of them. So I do want to be in inches. I'm thinking in inches this morning, so we'll stay with that. And notice that our tabs changed to reflect the drawing. So we have drawing, the standard views of the drawing, specialty views, annotations are dimensions, notes, everything that we could want in our views. We can also have some basic sketch tools. Really, the drawing is not where we need to be sketching, but there are things that I need to add. Markup is going to be sort of like revision control, or hey, make a note, and it kind of lives in the background. We still have the evaluation, still have the add-ins, and then we get to the sheet format tab. So there's a couple ways to get into our sheet formats. I have not really adopted the tab. In fact, let's go ahead and right-click, and we'll go to Edit Sheet Format under the sheet. One thing I always do on this, and you might have seen this in previous videos, is delete I don't do too much with, but properties I want to see. So I don't know why properties aren't shown here, but I do want those in place. So it took a minute for my video to catch up. And then last is if I right click and there are properties there as well, I can edit sheet format from this group. So let's take a real quick look at the properties. We have the sheet name. If I'm doing a multi-sheet drawing and I have a lot of sheets, I may condense that down to S1, S2, whatever. Our standard sheet size, if I need to reload it or change it, I can do that here. We also have first angle and third angle projection. When we actually get into the drawing, I'll review that again because that's always one that's been a little bit of a caused some confusion for me. So in the properties, we have some of this geometry and then zone parameters, being able to manage our A, Bs, and 1s and 2s. Not super complicated with an A size sheet, but if we get up to an E size where it's going to A, B, C, depending on our spacing, how we generate this. There is also the tool for an automatic border. So if we started with a completely blank sheet and we've wanted to build this from scratch, and I've built these from scratch, they are very specialized at that point. But to get started, we're going to modify an existing because it's going to have a lot of the information we need, even though I don't think it's laid out very well. So if I edit the sheet format, we're going to take our drawing. I always think of put a piece of plastic, put a piece of mylar, a piece of glass over this, and we're doing our drawings on top of this sheet format. When we edit the sheet format, now we're looking at the underneath and the guts of the drawing. This is where we're going to get the associativity. This is where the handoff occurs from the different properties. So I'm just going to do some basic modifications in this video and focus on the sheet format, and then we'll go in the next video and do the properties. I don't think I mentioned, but this is kind of an optional step. It's good information to have if you want to invest the time in doing it. Then it is a worthwhile exercise. Um, Otherwise, just be aware of the process and how it got there. And I am kind of a title block snob in that if somebody sends me one of these and they haven't modified it, it kind of tells me their level of experience with SolidWorks and how much information they're actually inserting by hand and the geometry that they're creating. So it is a window into the person that has drawn and modeled and done that process. So once we're in here, all of these are selectable. And if I have the filters, my filters are not turned on here. I could filter for just the notes, but let's go ahead and do a right to left or left to right select, and notice that it got all of the lines. So the reason that I would want the filters is that under the filters I can go for notes once I figure out where they're at. So there's dimensions, cosmetic, nope. Notes and balloons. So if I filter for notes and balloons and we grab all of those, I can drag all of the text out of the title block, and maybe we'll use it, maybe we won't. Okay, so F6 turns off the filters, leaves the filter bar. F5 turns the filter bar off. And for this, I'm not really going to need the command manager, so I'm going to collapse it. To get that back, I expand any of the tabs and then pin the command manager once again. All right, I'm going to now select from right to left, and that's going to kick out almost all of the lines. I'm leaving one in particular. I could draw it back in, but I left that one, and if you happen to grab all the lines, we'll just go up to the sketch, draw a line, and put in that that piece. So I have coincident, I have horizontal, I have coincident, and this is one of the places where I use the parameters and I use fixed. One of the only places. So if I make this 1.5 inches off of the pretty much off the bottom of the page, and we go select. Well, that one's going to be part of their title block, so that was not drawn in individually. See the point, 0.5 and 0.5, so that pretty much gives me 1 inch in the span. I've seen videos where they apply this as a dimension and then they hide the dimension. That to me is an extra level of confusion. So what I end up doing is selecting one of the endpoints and putting in a fixed. The coincident does not necessarily hurt anything. It's not helping anything at that point, but it does kick in that geometry. The other one, if I wanted to thicken this line up or not, we'd go into the line format. I don't know that that's really necessary at this point, so we're going to stay with it. If you want to claim ownership of this this drawing or have property rights. If it's not critical in an education situation, probably not as critical. But in most of the companies I've worked for, we put the name in there and we claim rights to the drawing. And not really using the next assembly used on. I do want to go with the material and the properties, and I'm not going to put in the separators. I kind of like the free format. Again, it's personal preference. If you want to draw the lines in, we'll draw one in for reference. I'm going to go with ASME Y14.5 for 2018 is the latest standard. And if we use geometric tolerancing, then that is the reference. And material, anytime you see the string property, so this one's going to the sheet, to the model in the sheet. This is going to refer to properties that we'll get into later. So for our tolerances then, I'm going to grab these guys and bring them down. All right, so I mentioned if you want a separator, we can draw in a line, and I'm going to go put in the point and kind of the same sketching. From the parameters, it's at 1 inch, but it doesn't really tell me the location. So if I were to go to just 2.2, then that looks pretty good. And if I want to keep it, I'm going to go back and fix one of the endpoints, so that causes it to define. In the process of doing the rest of them, I won't accidentally drag one of those. All right, I'm not going to, well, we might stay with the drawn and the date. So if I grab those boxes and drag those out, I don't know that I need, hopefully it would be self-explanatory. I'm going to keep those together in about that spacing and leave it there for now, because I want the title and the properties. And the description is not one that I usually use, but if I double click on that, it's going to let me resize, and it is set to center. 24 is pretty big, so I'm going to bring that back to a 20. And the title certainly doesn't need to be, well, sometimes they overlap like that if I have the fields. So let's go to like a 14 there. And we'll set that up and then kind of position that one there. So I'll probably end up changing that one. The drawing number, again, a little bit smaller. And this is going to pull the title of the document. So don't know what it did there, but I was scrolling or it was trying to infer. And that one probably went, was it 24 as well? So let's go to 18. So that will pull the drawing name. And then maybe I want to slide in the drawn by. Oh, and I missed my two little boxes there. And I don't know what's in those just yet. And I'm zooming around quite a bit to catch these items. Let's go ahead and move these a little closer so I don't have to zoom so far out. So the scale, and there was the box, so Control Z to put it back. I'm going to go to scale. And then the weight is kind of handy because sometimes you think you have a very big part, and because of the scale, you don't really get that sense of size. And if you see it weighs grams instead of kilograms, that is usually an indicator that it's a really big part or it's a really small part. And we'll set the the revision control, and the size. So what am I missing? I got all of those. I still have to decide if I want the verticals, but that gives me a good start. I know I'm going to go back and make the modifications. So in the next video, we're going to start looking at the properties and identifying those in the mix. And so I want to exit the sheet format, and we're going to save this sheet format. All right, so this defaults to the standard SolidWorks location. I really want to create this somewhere where I can find it. So this is going to create a new folder, and I'm just going to do SolidWorks templates. All right, so anything that I create is going to go in there. And ALAND, maybe simple. I don't know. Some of my, I've named them so many things over the process that this is going to be a simple A landscape. All right, so this saves all of this information. Anything like the inch, pounds, and seconds, the settings that are all going into the document properties, those will travel with the document template. So I'm going to go ahead and save the document template at this time. So a save as and drawing templates. It went to the same, nope, it went to program data. So why SolidWorks puts those in two different places, I don't know. It doesn't hurt anything. I don't know that it helps anything, but this is going to be a DRW DOT for the document template, and then I'm going to give it the same name, simple ALAND, and hopefully I got those close enough. And we'll go ahead and hit save. So that's our first jump into and see the overlap. So you see a couple other things that I need to correct, but that's our first jump into the sheet format. If I rebuild it, no errors, that's good to know. And we're ready to start looking at some of the background properties. And you can modify this to suit your own needs. And my real focus in doing this is now I have lots of real estate to put my drawings in and not have to work around wasted space and stuff that I'm not using. So, again, the standard is, in this case, a suggestion, and it really pays to make it your own.